Hi guys, it's Shelly here at Ignite, and we are so excited to start our Let's Talk show. And we're talking about each of the different topics each week. So we'll start off this week with faith, next week mindset, then intention, and then we'll finish up with purpose. And so first we're going to kick off today with faith. And as we talk about foundation, faith is one of those things that it's a critical component that we have to have in establishing a strong foundation. And so let's start it off with, what does faith mean to you? Let's go, Courtney.
So I grew up in a cookie cutter town church where my dad went, and that's where my grandparents went. So I was expected to be there pretty much every single Sunday and sit there without a coloring book and go to church like a lot of kids do. And it was always just something that I had faith. It was never activated. I never walked in faith. I just had it like a backpack. I always carried it with me but never used anything. And I think the older I got, the more I started to question it a little bit. And then in high school, I had 3 knee injuries. And then that's when I think I had to use my faith, because I kept doubting and I kept fearing and I just didn't know. I was lost. And then, so I lost all my faith completely. And then one day I actually opened my Bible to my favorite Bible verse, and it was Romans 8:18. And it's, the pain I cause you now is nothing compared to the glory that will be revealed to you. And I think that was the moment where I was like, holy crap, like, I need faith, because I can't do anything without my faith. So that's what faith means to me. It's just having a relationship with God and leaning into Him when you feel like you don't have anywhere else to lean. So
Absolutely. And I feel like there are so many times when people say, I'm not that strong in my faith, and then a moment hits them, whether that's something bad that happened or something glorious, and they realize that, no, God was there the whole time. The whole time.
Yeah.
So, Deanna, how about you?
Yeah, I think that, you hit the nail on the head, what you just said, that when it comes to my faith, I don't feel like I'm as strong in my faith as some of the other women here. And so it's really vulnerable to talk about what that means to me. But I also think that faith is a journey. And, I've left the church and I've come back, and it just, with each life moment, you either get closer to God or you turn away from God.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like a roller coaster, and you just kind of ride it out, and your faith continues to grow and change as you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, going back to college, when I left high school and then went to college and then, got my first job, had my first child, my faith continued to change and evolve all along the way. So, Riley, let's hear from you as a college student.
Yeah, for sure. So growing up, I grew up in the Catholic school system, so it's kind of just like faith was always there, and I never really had to actively seek it out. And I definitely think going to college, it has really taught me that I have to seek it out if I want it in my life, and faith always has been a huge part of me. And I've always almost was judged that I had a faith and like I really believed in God, and I believe He does have a purpose for me, and it's just really trusting that plan, and trust is a huge thing. And I've struggled with it every day, but having trust in God that His plan and anything in my life is meant to come in my life, and what's meant to come in and meant to go out is all part of God's plan. It's a very much growing. I feel like at this time in my life, it's a very pivotal time for me that I could either go down a really dark path, or I could really just start living a great life and really just focusing on my faith. And I feel like, why would I waste my time going down a dark path, knowing that at the end of the day, I'm still going to want to go to this right path? So I might as well start on the right path and really be involved in my faith. And I think going to college has really just taught me that I have to do it my own. It's very an independent thing, and I was very dependent on my school. And so I think even with this whole Ignite is really going to help me even just put it to the next step further as well. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, I would say the same is true of me. I grew up going to church every Sunday, and that was important to our family, and I loved that. And it was a big part of us. Then I went to college, and I tried going to church, and I was on my own. And I realized that for me, going to church and having a strong faith meant I needed to be in community. And I didn't feel connected to that community at first. But my friends always went to church, and so then I started going with them, even though they were a different denomination. it was important for me to share my faith with other people, not do it alone. And I think a lot of times people try to do it on their own, and they're lost. But when you do it, so I think a lot of times when you get married, sometimes you start going, or once you have a child, you start going to church. But faith isn't just about going to church either. And I think one of the moments that was very pivotal for me was when I studied abroad in Rome. I was totally by myself, obviously with my classmates, but I had a lot of soul searching then. I allowed my mind to be quiet, and I think when we start to quiet our lives, we're able to hear what God is telling us. And being in Rome and some of the travels that we had across Italy was very impactful for me and my faith, because it allowed me to grow closer to my why in faith, because I was closer to God, closer to hearing what Jesus had in store for me and my life. But at the same time, I realized it was beyond the church, but the things that were important for me in faith was really a lot of community and having that quiet time in prayer with our Lord.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times we think of faith and we get scared because it's so easy to compare your faith to another religion or the girl next to you. And I remember so vividly a time in high school when this girl I was going to Bible study with knew all the Bible verses, had them all memorized, and she could just quote this and this and this. And she could pray out loud without like stumbling over her words. And I remember just looking at her like, who are you? I would just I still can't talk. I mean, and she would just pray. And I remember just being like, why can't I have that faith? But then I realized I was wanting her faith. I wasn't wanting a relationship with God. I was wanting to do what she was doing instead of having God just speak through me. And I think the quicker you learn that, that's when just things click and you can grow in your faith without feeling that need to compare or be like someone else. You can just glorify God, and I think that's just our goal and our purpose in life. So.
Yeah, and faith is between you and God.
It's
not comparable to anyone else, and it's a different relationship for everyone.
Yeah.
I think we forget that. So tell me a time maybe that you were challenged in your faith.
I definitely think for me was definitely during my senior year of high school. I graduated in the COVID. I was a 2020 COVID senior, so I think for me, like, not being able to have a final prom and like graduation, like realizing that like, what is God trying to teach me in this moment? I really had a lot of time to be alone because my parents were both still going to work still at that time, and I was just by myself at home, and I thought a lot, and it really was a lot of reflecting on where I wanted to go in my life and where I wanted to see, and I really reached out to God in that moment. I'm like, what is your purpose for me? Like, I literally had no idea like what I wanted to do in college, like, and I really just started to begin to trust God and his plan. And I think you sometimes can get a little too comfortable, like, oh, I'm on the right path, and then you're like, this is what's meant to happen in my life, and then something else happens and you're like, oh, okay, that's not what I had planned. But you just kind of roll with the punches. And I think it's okay to plan, but don't plan every step. Plan like small big goals and not every little moment in life, and definitely live day by day. It's been like just trusting the process is the biggest thing. And like in my high school there's like a TTP, it's trust the process, and that's the big thing I've just been realizing to go back to, is just really trust the process. This is the biggest thing. And that whole time in COVID, it's like, what am I trying to be taught during the whole COVID shutdown and no senior year? And I think that was the biggest pivotal turning point for my faith as well.
Excellent. Yeah, for mine, throughout life, there's a lot of things that happen. I graduated and couldn't find a job right away. But I would say the biggest thing that challenged my faith, though, was I thought I had life figured out. When we moved to Eastern Iowa after John graduated vet school, I was so excited about my life there and what we had built there. And then we found out we were moving. And we were moving to Manning. And a dream that I had always had was to have my own business. And that afforded me to do this. I could actually, step back and say, okay, I'm done working that career and now I'm ready to start my own business, which I should have been grateful for. But I wasn't trusting my faith. I was wanting to take control of my own life and thought I had life figured out. And so I became very angry. But I turned to prayer and prayed every single day that God would show me the way, show me the positivity in this. And we'll be talking about mindset next week. But it was my mindset that I had to overcome first and continue to lean on my faith. So while my faith was there, I had this doubt and wondering, God, this isn't what I thought we had planned. I didn't think this was the plan for my life. When in reality, he kept saying to me, yes, this is a plan. Trust me, believe in me, and this will happen. And I couldn't, once I finally gave in to that, and realized, okay, yes, God does have a greater plan for my life, that, okay, this is it. And that faith was always there, but I was doubting. And so I think if we remember to return to prayer during those times of doubt or struggle, that is what will carry us through, and we'll become stronger on the other end. You know, I think a lot of people look at my life right now and say, oh, wow, she's really strong in her faith. It took going through those really tough times and really negative times for me to get to where I'm at today. You know, and now I can look back on that and think it wasn't so bad. During the time, it was awful, you know, and I still think about some of the thoughts that went through my head, and I think, oh no, why did I even think that way? Yes. So, Courtney, anything for you that challenged in your faith?
Yeah, that was, like I said earlier, my knee surgeries. Just pretty standard faith until I completely lost it. I wanted nothing to do with church, with God, with any religion, because I was so angry that he took away my ability to play sports, because that was like my purpose. I thought that was my career, and it makes me emotional still, because I'm here now and I've seen God work through that hard time and bless me with so many incredible women. So that's enough for me. I'll just start crying. But like I said, everything works out, even if it's not what you think it's going to be, because God will take what you think and make it 10 times better. And I think you just have to lean into God and really trust in him, because everything is so much better with him. So,
and life is hard. Life is hard in so many ways, and you know, overcoming the past year and what we've gone through with the pandemic, and we don't know, we're not through that completely yet, and what will come of that as a repercussions, whether it's mental health or other things. People are really struggling, and so I would encourage everyone to really lean on their faith, find that little bit of hope, do a daily prayer, even if it's simply saying, God, I don't know what to say, but here I am. Help me, Lord. Right? That's as simple as it needs to be, and he will work in you and through you.
Yeah, grace comes when grace is needed, and I think we need to remember that and live by that. So
yes, absolutely. So what would you say is the biggest takeaway from your week in faith here? I can go first. I really think, so this was the gospel reading at our wedding, and your faith can be as small as a mustard seed, but it takes tending to that. So just like when you plant a seed, you have to feed that. You have to water that. You have to give it sun and glory and to ignite that. And so I would say, even though that small, tiny little mustard seed, which seems like nothing, it was minuscule at the time. I said, you know, I felt like my faith was big at the time. So why do we compare this to a mustard seed? But I had no idea where it could take me. That if I activated that, if I ignited my faith, how that could spread like wildfire. And that's why we're here today. And so I would say that even if you feel like you have that eensy, tiny little mustard seed within you, water it, tend to it, feed it with the Holy Spirit, read the Bible, do this journal. I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I definitely think realizing it's going to take work and it's not going to just happen, like, you're not going to become this great...
Amazon Prime.
Yeah, no. It's definitely more like a 2-week, like, couple months. Like, everyone's process is different, and everyone starts at a different point. And it's like we kind of talked back about comparison. Your point to start is way different than anyone else's, and you just have to own where you are at currently and be like, this is where I'm starting, and I'm gonna work to be the best. And it's okay to like be like, I want to be like that person, but like like take what they're doing and be like, give that, like, what they're doing spark you, but don't compare yourself to be like them. Be like your own version, best version of yourself. I always say, try to be the best version of yourself, and be proud of your younger self. Should be proud of who you are today. And I feel like for me, realizing that now, like a year ago today, going through that, like a year ago we were in the middle of a shutdown, and like now today, like being able to talk about this, I think I'm like sitting here like, this is so crazy. Like a year can change so much. And even just staying constant. I think during Lent I journaled every day, and I think that's another way. It's just doing something small. You don't have to do 18 things at once. It's doing small things and then building on it and making it a process. It's never just going to happen. And I think understanding it's a process, and it's ever flowing, and it's never just going to end. And as you go through different stages, it's definitely going to change as well. So that's my biggest takeaway, I would say, for sure.
I want to double click on something that you said about having faith and going to church, and how those are You know, those are two different things.
Yeah.
And that for the
Yes.
longest time, I thought that that was one thing. I went to church every Sunday growing up, but I didn't do anything in between Sundays, you know? And so I thought that, you know, yes, I believe in God, and yes, I'm going to church, but there's so much more to cultivate that mustard seed. There's so much more that goes into it. You just can't just water on Sundays,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
Sure.
And so I think that makes a difference too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I would say that I hope that no matter how big or small your faith is, that you take this time this week to really look at where you're at in your faith and cultivate it. Evaluate yourself and know that it's going to be a process. It's going to take time if you don't feel like you're strong in your faith now. But know that, as we said in the book here, that once you establish that foundation in faith, nobody can shake that. Nobody can shake that inmost harm. And then you will be able to build a life on hope, joy, and peace. And I think a lot of us try to jump to the outcomes of life, but really this is a foundation that sets you up to weather the storm, as you will. No matter what comes, you can be consistent and solid throughout life. So I wish you guys the best this week. We look forward to seeing you again next week as we talk about mindset and how that impacts your foundation as well. Have a great week, everyone. See you later.